Millions of Americans are living in their cars right now, not because they want to, but because they have to. This is a shocking statistic for the wealthiest country in the world, but it's the reality. In some cities, the number of people living in their cars is up 45% over the past 10 years. In California, the number of people living in their cars has doubled.
I avoided the unreasonable cost of housing in San Francisco by sleeping in a converted Nissan NV200.
Mike Phillips is the senior director at a nonprofit that operates safe lots around San Diego County. He said this epidemic is affecting normal, everyday people. If they're homeless for the first time, they're sort of coming to terms with what's happened and their new status, and all they have left is their car. When I saw the scale of this, it really made me stop and think, not just about the expensive cost of housing, but about the bigger picture. Because this isn't just about homelessness, it's about how expensive life in America has become. So in this video, I want to share with you why this is happening and how people are getting out of it, including leaving the country altogether.
It's a constant struggle to have any kind of, not even just privacy, just being left alone.
There are 5 main reasons that people are forced into living this way. First, you have the general economic climate in America, which stems from our government's policy choices, the pandemic, and getting involved in foreign wars. Then you have private equity funds buying up affordable housing around the country. This has resulted in an estimated 7 million unit shortfall in affordable housing. Also, super PACs who use large amounts of money to influence politicians and government policy, making it hard to pass legislation that can solve the housing crisis and affordability problem for everyday Americans. Then you have general inflation and the overall rising cost of living worldwide. That affects everything from food to rent, utilities, and more. Next is stagnant wages. National rents are up 30 to 50% since 2020, yet median wages grew only 12 to 15% in the same period. But the crazy thing is, having a full-time job no longer prevents homelessness or protects you from poverty. Over 53% of people living in vehicles report having a full-time job. Some even work multiple jobs and still can't afford a home. The problem isn't being jobless, it's that wages haven't outpaced the cost of living crisis. As one person commented online, this is what happens when wages stay flat, but rent doubles. Now, this story hits home for me because a lot of my family members and ancestors grew up in poverty and in trailer parks. So the fact that even this type of affordable housing is becoming unreachable for everyday Americans is very distressing. The cost of living in America is one of the 3 main reasons that people come to me for help living abroad, and it's become more and more common in the past 2 years. I'm not saying that this is the only answer because moving to another country requires resources. It requires time, planning, and saving. So it's not something that's viable for everyone, but it is something that millions of Americans are considering, which I talked about in a video just a few weeks ago that I'll link to this video and you can watch next. Moving abroad is something that everyday Americans are thinking about and planning for. Many of them can barely get by right now and make ends meet, and they've realized that they won't be able to maintain their lifestyle when they retire. I've helped thousands of people relocate, and what I'm seeing now is a significant shift in people looking at their budgets, looking at their cost of living, and realizing that they can get by and make ends meet now, but it won't necessarily be the case when they get to retirement, or maybe they're already retired and spending more than they receive each month. What people want to do is protect their quality of life before it disappears, because you can genuinely live well in other countries for $1,000 to $2,000 per month, when you could easily need double that to get by in the United States. The poverty line in America is about $16,000 per year for a single person and $33,000 for a family of 4. On the contrary, the income requirements to get a long-term visa to live in a foreign country, such as somewhere in Latin America, Europe, or Southeast Asia, start at $1,000 per month or $12,000 per year. And in countries like the Philippines, Bolivia, and Albania, you can live on even less than that per month. So the first problem we have here are the stagnant wages in the US compared to the rapidly rising cost of living. And then we have the overall housing crisis. The cost of housing in the United States has been steadily increasing since 1940. According to Zillow, the average rent in the US for all property types is $2,000 per month. That's 2 to 4 times the average monthly wage in many other countries. In America, the average monthly wage of a U.S. worker in 2026 is under $5,000 per month, which is still in the top 10 of incomes globally. So why can't people pay rent? Well, that's just one cost that's gone up, along with food, gas, utilities, and health insurance. A general guideline is to spend no more than 30% of your income on your rent. But as you just saw, in many cases, rent can make up 50% or more of your monthly income. In 230 plus US cities, a basic one-bedroom requires 40% or more of the median worker's income, and many landlords require you to make 3 times the monthly rent plus pay rent and security deposits up front. That can easily add up to $5,000 to $10,000 in cash, which many people simply don't have available. The first thing that people typically do in this scenario is go into survival mode. And I think about that in 3 levels when it comes to what to do in the US, plus a 4th level, which is actually leaving the country. Level 1 is survival mode. So this is where people live in their cars, go couch surfing, and go into extreme budgeting and downsizing mode. This is where at least 2 to 3 million Americans are living right now. Level 2 consists of domestic alternatives like moving to cheaper states, house hacking or getting roommates, or working remotely in the US. So earning a California salary while living somewhere like rural Arkansas, where the cost of living is a lot lower. Level 3 is sustainable communities. This is an interesting movement that I've come across where we have a growing number of people who are opting out of the toxicity of the modern day American lifestyle. They want to quit their jobs, spend less time on devices, and go back to the basics of community and work-life balance. These people aren't going off the grid completely. They're still using technology and living in the modern world. They're simply trading corporate America for entrepreneurship and trying to find a balance with more affordability and a higher quality of life. They're advocating for building their own towns in Middle America to hit the reset button, like this gentleman from the Retribalize project.
What are we going to do? What are we going to do about AI coming for all of these jobs? Housing prices out of control, the atomization in society. I was just talking to a guy from McKinsey the other day, and he's ready to quit his job, move out to the boonies and start a business with us.
The 4th level is moving to another country for a lower cost of living. Now, moving abroad isn't free. It takes a lot of time, resources, planning, flexibility, and savings. But what I'm seeing more and more often is people coming to me at least 6 to 12 months before they'd like to move abroad, in some case a few years before, because they want to plan for a future where they might not be able to stay in the United States. If you decide to move abroad, you will have to save up for a flight, shipping or storage, rent, and relocation costs. But you don't have to be rich or have a golden passport to move abroad for a better life. The chart on the screen shows example income requirements to get a visa to live long-term in a foreign country. As a general rule, the income thresholds for retirement or passive income visas are lower than digital nomad and remote work visas, And options in Latin America and Southeast Asia are typically more accessible and flexible than those in Europe, Australia, and New Zealand. Once you arrive and get settled in the country, your monthly cost of living can range from $800 to $1,000 per month, especially in places like Southeast Asia, such as Vietnam, Cambodia, Indonesia, and the Philippines. Or you could spend from $2,000 to $5,000 per month to live in Latin America or Europe. But the reality is that you can live comfortably in a foreign country for the same cost of rent in the United States. In Argentina, the cost of living for an expat is around $1,000 per month. In Bulgaria, it's about the same. In Germany, you can live on $2,000 to $3,000 per month. And in Thailand, many expats live on around $1,200 to $1,500 per month. In comparison, in the United States, the average spending per household ranges from $66,000 to over $140,000 per year. That's anywhere from $5,000 to $12,000 per month. And I've heard figures much higher than that. What we're seeing right now isn't just a housing issue, it's a quality of life crisis in the United States, and it's really causing people to look in the mirror and really ask themselves what they want and expect from life, and if they're satisfied with their situations in their home country. People want stability, they want affordability, they want safety, and they want to be able to get health care without going bankrupt. And when they can't find that in their home country, millions start to look elsewhere. So if you're watching this video and thinking, I just need to get out of here, that's valid. But the next step isn't booking a flight tomorrow, it's figuring out where you'd actually enjoy living, what kind of lifestyle and climate you want, where you can afford and qualify for a visa, whether you can fit in culturally or learn a new language, and whether this is something that fits your lifestyle long term. If you're thinking about making a change, whether it's moving cities or states or changing countries, the earlier you're able to start planning ahead, the better. Next, I'll link to a video right here with the exact steps that you can take if you're thinking about leaving the United States, and I'll also link to a couple videos with the most affordable places to live in the world. And if you're serious about moving abroad and you'd like some help from me, you can always reach out to us at travelingwithkristin.com/relocation.